So for decades and decades, we didn't quite know where this was. It was lost, and it was found again last year in 2021. Welcome to MHA Digital Communities. My name's Jo Bell. I'm speaking to you from the Macclesfield Silk Museum. And what we're looking at today is this extraordinary thing which belongs to the history of suffragettes and suffragism in the Northwest. The suffragette movement really began in Manchester, just 20 minutes up the road. The Pankhursts, you will know about, and their families' association with the Women's Social and Political Union, which was the militant branch, really, of the women's fight for the vote. But here in Macclesfield, there was also a very active scene agitating for the vote for women. Earlier in the 19th century, there had already been massive protests here, wanting the vote for men, universal manhood suffrage. By the time we get to the 1870s and onwards, that campaign has moved on, and what people are agitating for now is the vote for women. In 1877, Lydia Becker, one of the suffrage movement's earliest and most famous speakers, spoke at Macclesfield Town Hall. And in 1908, when the movement was really gathering impetus, there was a report in a Manchester evening newspaper of a demonstration in Macclesfield. Disorderly behaviour, it said, rough usage of suffragettes. So some women were arrested here. It was a place of great political activism, and it was a place where women spoke out in pursuit of the franchise. They wanted their voices heard, they wanted a say in legislation. And here at the Silk Museum, of course, where our collections include all kinds of textile treasures, one of the things that we have in our collections is this banner, which we know was made here in 1911, so just after that rough usage of suffragettes in Macclesfield. In 1911, the Macclesfield Embroidery School made this. It isn't actually embroidered, it's a banner that is printed or stenciled with these rather beautiful letters saying Macclesfield Women's Suffrage Society. So these are not the colours of Emmeline Pankhurst's WSPU. These are the colours of the National Women's Suffrage Society. So instead of the green, purple and white that you might associate with suffragettes, what we've got here is red, green and white. And this banner is probably the one that was used in the great 1911 demonstration in London and carried to represent the women of Macclesfield. We knew that there was a banner and it must exist, and we had a feeling that it must be here in our collections, but we weren't sure. And it was only when researcher and historian Ailsa Holland and volunteer Emily went through our collections and did an audit that it was found. So for decades and decades, we didn't quite know where this was. It was lost, and it was found again last year in 2021 and has been brought out for you to see today. It's a really beautiful thing. It's paint that's been stenciled on to this banner, and it would probably be carried by two women, usually wearing white, because that's what they wore in their great demonstrations. And so you see a river of women of all ages and types walking together in procession and peacefully protesting, saying, we want the vote on the same terms as men. We don't know for sure if any of the women on that protest worked here at the mill, the Paradise Mill next to our museum. And we don't know for sure if any of the women on the workforce were suffragettes, but it would be a bit funny if they weren't. This is a building full of working class women in a town where the rights and entitlements of working people have always been subject to protest and argument, and where we've often had riots in the streets. So it'd be very odd if in a town with the history of Macclesfield, there weren't some suffragettes working here in these walls and making their voices heard further afield.